All right, so ready to dive into something truly unique with me, the world of alchemy. Specifically, some excerpts from the Turba Philosophorum. You were curious about this one, right?
Fascinating choice. This book, it's often called the Book of Truth in the Art, right? And even its origins, they're like a bit of an alchemical puzzle themselves.
Right. It's like we need to find the philosopher's stone just to figure out where this book came from. Some say ancient Greece, others Arabia, maybe even like older traditions. It's written as a conversation, though, between alchemists, each with their own take on the secrets of transmutation, kind of like what we're about to do.
Precisely. And just like a true alchemical process, deciphering the turba requires patience, observation, and a willingness to look beyond the surface.
Okay, so let's put on our metaphorical alchemist's robes and get started. Right away, we encounter the familiar four elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Classic Alchemy 101, right?
True, but the turba doesn't stop at these four. It hints at a fifth element, a more subtle essence, almost like a hidden ingredient, really, that holds the key to the real work. It's in this fifth element where things get really interesting.
A hidden ingredient? Now you've really got my attention. As someone who loves uncovering those extra layers of meaning, this is right up my alley. What can you tell us about this mysterious fifth element?
Think of it as the bridge between the physical and the spiritual in alchemy. It's the subtle energy, the life force, really, that animates all matter.
So it's not just about what you can mix in a crucible, but also what's happening on a deeper, more energetic level.
Exactly. And this is where the turba's language, which is full of terms like sulfur, mercury, vinegar, even fish gall at one point, becomes particularly intriguing.
Yeah, when I saw fish gall in my research materials, I knew we were in for a wild ride with this one, but I have a feeling we shouldn't be stocking up on these ingredients literally, right?
Definitely not. Alchemists, they were masters of symbolism. Their mercury wasn't just the liquid metal. It represented something more fundamental: adaptability, the life force, maybe even consciousness itself.
So when they talk about sulfur, they're not talking about what's making those matches smell. Give us a concrete example of this symbolic language in action.
Think of it this way. Sulfur is often associated with the fiery, active principle in nature. It's about transformation through intensity, like how anger, represented by sulfur, can transform a calm situation into something volatile.
Wow, I see what you mean about looking beyond the surface. There's a whole other layer of meaning here.
And that's just one example. These symbolic layers are precisely what makes the turba so captivating to scholars even today.
It's like a language within a language, and understanding those symbols unlocks a whole new dimension of the text. Speaking of hidden dimensions, the turba also touches on this idea of secrecy and deliberate obfuscation. You actually highlighted a passage where an alchemist warns about envious practitioners who obscure their writing. Why all the secrecy?
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's almost as if simply deciphering the text was considered part of the alchemical process itself, a test of the seeker's worthiness to receive the knowledge,
I can see how that would appeal to someone like you and our listeners who love those hidden layers of knowledge. But there's something a little frustrating about it too, isn't there? Like, just give us the recipe already.
And yet, that frustration might be part of the point. Alchemy, at its core, wasn't just about following a recipe. It was about a journey of self-discovery, of gradually peeling back layers of understanding, both of the material world and of oneself.
So the challenge itself is part of the process. I can get behind that. But before we lose ourselves too much in the symbolism, one particular passage really jumped out at me. It describes a tree whose fruit can banish hunger forever. Now, this sounds more like something out of a myth than a scientific text. What's going on there?
That, my friend, is where things get really interesting. Is it a literal tree or a metaphor for something else? Spiritual fulfillment, perhaps. The turba, like a good alchemist, leaves that for you to ponder.
I love that. It's like the text itself is inviting us to engage in our own alchemical process of interpretation. It's like we're being asked to find our own personal meaning within the mysteries of alchemy. But before we get too lost in the metaphorical forest, the turba also emphasizes something surprisingly grounded: the importance of patience.
Absolutely. Several alchemists in the text, they stress that time, diligence, even moral purity are essential for success in what they call the great work. It's a stark contrast to our modern instant gratification mindset, wouldn't you say?
It's true. We want everything fast. Fast food, fast internet, fast results. But the turba suggests that some things, the really valuable things, can't be rushed.
Precisely. And perhaps that's a message we need now more than ever, right? It's a reminder to embrace the journey, to find meaning in the process itself, not just the end goal.
That really resonates with me. It's like that saying, life is about the journey, not the destination. But it's easy to forget that when we're constantly bombarded with messages about achieving success quickly.
And that's where the Turba offers a different perspective. It suggests that true transformation, whether in the alchemical laboratory or in our own lives, requires dedication, perseverance, a willingness to learn and grow through challenges.
So it's not just about mixing the right ingredient, it's about cultivating the right mindset. Makes you wonder, do we sometimes miss out on those valuable lessons because we're too focused on getting to the finish line?
It's a question worth considering. And it brings us to another crucial aspect of the Turba, its exploration of the interconnectedness between the material and the spiritual. While we've talked about transmuting base metals into gold, there are hints throughout the text that this transformation is about more than just physical substances.
Right, like that tree with the hunger-banishing fruit. It's hard to imagine a literal fruit with that power. So are they suggesting that the true goal of alchemy is something more like spiritual enlightenment?
That's a fascinating interpretation and one that many scholars have explored. Remember, for alchemists, the process of working with metals, with fire, with the elements, was often seen as a mirror of their own inner transformation.
So when they talk about purifying gold, they're also talking about purifying the self.
Exactly. And that idea, inner transformation, of seeking a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmos, is something that continues to resonate with people today, even if we don't use the language of alchemy to describe it.
It's like those core human questions about meaning and purpose are timeless, even if the methods we use to explore them change over time. So how do we connect these ancient alchemical ideas to our modern understanding of science and spirituality? What do you think, listener? Do you see any parallels?
That's a brilliant question, and one that deserves careful consideration. On the surface, alchemy might seem a world away from our modern scientific method. But if we look closer, we start to see some intriguing connections.
It's like those alchemists were, in a way, like early scientists, meticulously observing and experimenting, always looking for those hidden connections in the natural world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meticulous record keepers they were, constantly refining their methods, even if their worldview was, well, very different from ours. And their fascination with the transformative power of nature, the way substances could interact and change each other, doesn't that echo our modern explorations in chemistry and physics, though?
It's like they were laying the groundwork for our modern understanding of the elements, even if they didn't have, the same tools and terminology we have now. But what's really fascinating to me is how alchemy, even though it's often associated with the past, it continues to influence us today, even in subtle ways.
That's what makes it so fascinating. It didn't just vanish with, like, the rise of modern science. It left behind this legacy of ideas and practices, really, that still resonate. For instance, think about our modern obsession with transformation in medicine, technology, even personal growth. Aren't we still striving for that alchemical ideal of improvement, of reaching a higher state of being?
It's like that alchemical desire for change. It's woven into our very fabric as a culture. We're constantly looking for ways to, improve, to innovate, to push the boundaries of what's possible. And what about the spiritual side of alchemy? Where do you see those echoes in our modern world?
Oh, it's everywhere. The idea that there's a deeper meaning to life, that we're all connected to something larger than ourselves. These are themes that resonate with many spiritual traditions today, just as they did centuries ago. And that quest for self-realization, for inner harmony, for what some might call enlightenment, it's a journey that many people are still drawn to, even if they wouldn't necessarily call it, alchemy.
It's like that alchemical quest for the philosopher's stone wasn't just about creating physical gold. It was about uncovering the gold within ourselves, our potential for wisdom, compassion, and self-awareness.
And that's a process that doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes time, dedication, a willingness to face our own inner darkness in order to find the light. Just like the alchemists believed that the path to creating the philosopher's stone was fraught with challenges and setbacks, we too encounter obstacles and setbacks on our own journeys of self-discovery.
It's like they were saying, hey, transformation is possible, but it's not always easy, and it definitely doesn't happen instantly. It's a reminder that true growth, whether in the lab or in life, it requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to learn from our mistakes.
Precisely. And that brings us to what I find to be one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of the Turba. its emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything. Just as the alchemists saw the four elements as inseparable, intertwined aspects of the material world, perhaps we too can benefit from recognizing the interconnectedness of our own inner and outer worlds, of our thoughts, emotions, and actions, and how they ripple out and affect the world around us.
So we're not just isolated individuals, we're part of a larger web of life, and our actions, they have consequences, for better or for worse. It makes you think about how much our modern world could benefit from rediscovering that sense of interconnectedness.
Indeed. And perhaps that's the most valuable lesson we can glean from our deep dive into the Turba Philosophorum today. It's not just an ancient text about a forgotten art, it's a reflection of timeless human questions about our place in the universe, our potential for transformation, and the interconnectedness of all things. These are themes that continue to resonate with us today, even as we continue to explore them in new and ever-evolving ways.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these ideas with you, and for our listeners, we'll leave you with this final thought. What if the true Turba Philosophorum isn't a book at all, but the ongoing conversation that happens within each of us as we strive to understand ourselves and the world around us? Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep transforming the alchemical journey. It never truly ends.